Jeremy, can you hear me?
I hear you. Yeah.
Great. Hey,
Can you
thanks
hear me?
so I can. Thank you so much for doing this lesson. Hi, Susan.
Well, how come the sound's only on your laptop?
What?
The sound's not coming out of the TV. Well, I'll just turn up. Can you just turn the volume up on your laptop? I can hear them, but just barely.
Okay.
Here, I wonder if is it me?
No, I
No,
can hear
it's our TV for some
No,
reason.
I could hear him.
I mean, we hear
You're
you.
fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about
It's fine.
I would yell, but my kids are trying to go to sleep now.
No,
Uh,
no, we
Yeah, we hear you.
we put the volume high. It's fine.
Great. Well, Jeremy, nice to see you play tennis, and I hear that you're hopefully going to play more tennis in the future.
This is part of my New Year's resolution.
Good.
Tennis and yoga.
Oh, nice.
I'm more reluctant about yoga, but with tennis. I've played off and on. I took some lessons, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. I've
Yeah.
never played consistently though. And to be honest with you, yeah, I watched your video. I sent you that email, and the serve has been the most tormenting part. It's
Hmm.
so I actually feel like by following your 5 steps,
Mhm.
I actually can hit a serve now.
Yeah, it looks good.
Is encouraging. Yeah, no,
That's
so
great.
that was the main, it was a shocker for me. That was interesting, just mainly focusing on the open face,
Yeah.
closed face.
Yep.
That move alone seems to make a lot of good things happen, so.
Good. Good. Well,
Anyway.
that's evident in your serve, so good work. Um, what sports did you play growing up, if any?
Oh, a lot, yeah. I was cross country and track were my main sports. I
Okay.
rode crew in college at Cal, and yeah, so
Mhm.
I did a lot of cycling. I rode my bike
Okay.
the country. So I've been athletic
Yeah.
whole life, but I had a big down period. Medical school and residency were really difficult for me to
Hmm.
do anything. Uh,
Hmm.
and so I probably had about a 10-year period where I didn't get any exercise.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I tend to pick things up pretty easy. Stick sports frustrate me. I played golf in high school. I was fairly
Hmm.
decent, but I quit because it was so frustrating. Yeah, I think probably one of my biggest challenges will be to not. I can harness anger on a bicycle or while running in endurance sports. That it actually can help you. Where
Sure.
in tennis, unless I guess you find a way to channel it, it tends to tense me up. So I get tense and frustrated with tennis.
Sure. Unless you're John McEnroe and somehow it helps you play better.
Well, yeah, I see that, and I can kind of see how that worked for him, right? He
Hmm.
kind of projected his anger onto the umpires,
Yep.
and that gave him time probably to diffuse it.
Sure.
You know what I
It's a
mean?
bit of a bit
It
of a
wasn't turned inward.
a bit of a stall tactic, and like get himself back in track and
Yeah, that's
back
right.
mentally, and yeah, pretty
Action until he settled down, and then so he figured out how to use it to his advantage, obviously.
cool.
But yeah, only one person gets to be John McEnroe, though, right?
You are 100% right.
Because everything he did changed umpiring, and the rules all got changed to end that, I think.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So, well, what I want to do, first off, I want to just give you a big compliment because, um, you know, your serve, it's very obvious to me when players are attempting things that they may or may not have seen on my videos. Uh, and so, it was pretty cool to see some of the things that you were doing on your serve.
Okay.
And I thought you had very good body control.
Hmm.
You have to be coached up, and just looking at your videos, and I'll show you playing in a moment here, but
All right.
it was cool to see you out there playing and making common mistakes that everybody makes, but just by watching you play, I was very encouraged that we can, you know, come up with solutions for some of the things
Great.
that are happening, and
Okay.
to help you, like, ultimately power is so overrated. You want to be able to hit the ball in the box and where you want it to go. Like that, you want to be accurate and consistent. And so let's get started. So when it comes to your serve, your grip looks awesome, the way you're holding
Okay.
onto the racket, and the open face is definitely what helps that to occur.
Right.
Your toss, very encouraged by your toss, where your toss is not super high.
Okay.
I have a range using a timer that I like
Ah.
to see the toss stay within.
Okay.
And, I start the timer when the ball's near the top of the head until contact. And the ball should stay within a certain amount of time that passes by. And if you toss to the moon, obviously too much time is going to pass by the time you contact the ball. So that's how I measure it. And most of your serves, you were within that range. So that's a really encouraging sign.
Okay.
You were talking about the racket going from open to closed.
Yeah.
You're pretty good at that closure.
Okay.
But I want to show you something right now that's going to help. So you have what is called on your serve the waiter's tray. And the waiter's tray is simply that, like a waiter at a restaurant with the wrist extended to
Okay.
accommodate the tray on the palm as they walk around with food, right? And
Right.
so this really is a detrimental position to get into because on the serve, Jeremy, we want the racket to draw like a lasso. We
Yeah.
want the racket to draw a circular motion.
Okay.
And maybe in passing or maybe from instruction you've heard this idea of palm down, and that when you are trying to serve, the goal is to keep your palm down as long as you can. And the reason for that is when your palm is down, it allows for 360 degrees of rotation, and the swing is like a helicopter blade. The circular motion is like that lasso, yeehaw, right? It's when the racket lays open and the palm faces up that if I kind of show you from this angle, imagine I'm serving toward the strategy board, watch my racket go in a straight line. So obviously it's arcing like a rainbow, but it's going in a straight line. It has to now stop, and then I push. And what we want is a circular motion where the racket can accelerate. So my responsibility in all this is to figure out how can I get Jeremy to keep his palm down. And have you heard of the concept of hitting a birthday hat on your head?
Yeah, I've never put one on my head, but
That's okay. That's
Okay.
okay. That's okay. You will. We'll get to there. You will. I'll indoctrinate you in that. But what I really want to focus on is this idea of palm down.
Okay.
And so
So what you're
so-
saying is I'm starting palm down and then I'm flipping.
correct. Or
Yeah.
you look like you may go palm down because it's pretty early. It's pretty early in this motion that you start extending the wrist and doing this. It's super common, like where
Okay,
players
okay.
have the
Alright.
angle behind, and we really want to be curled over, or the feeling is to be curled over. So
Okay.
what I want to do is to give, and if you have your racket nearby, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, grab it, and I'll show you.
My racket's right there?
It doesn't matter, just use one of those.
Oh.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whose racket it is. Yeah. Cool. So the drill that I'm going to ask you to use in order to get rid of this waiter's tray, and let's actually put you in the waiter's tray so that you can feel it, and then I'm going to show it to you in a second. Can I just have you point your string? There you go. Point your strings to the sky. And I really want you to do it without letting go of the racket, but really extending the wrist and trying to really let the wrist lay back. All right. So I'm allowing your brain to feel what's wrong, right? So we want to stay out of this position for multiple reasons. It isn't just for the path of the racket. It's also, we want to be supinated to promote pronation, which is going to be the fastest way to move the racket through contact. And we can't do that if the strings are facing up. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to put your racket on top of your head with your strings facing down. So have your strings facing down. So just point your strings down and then just put your racket on top of your head. Very good. Nice. Now, with the strings pointing down, I want you to slide the racket off the back of your head. Yes. And now attempt to hit a serve with the wrong side of the racket,
Oh,
as
yeah.
as messed up as that seems.
Got it.
So
I'm-
yeah, exactly right. Which is going to be on the other end of the spectrum of going into the waiter's tray. Now, both are wrong. Like what I'm just teaching you is wrong, but it's so exaggerated that it's gonna, be
Got it.
we're gonna meet in the middle and have kind of a
Feel-
yeah. So you're doing a great job right now. You're separating the movements. So you're going off your head and then you're taking like a beat of 1 or 2 and then going to the ball. Try to do them one after the other. So slide off the back of your head and then seamlessly go to the ball. Try that. Off the back of your head. Very nice. Very good. Good. So what you're doing right now is 85% right.
Okay.
The last 15% is where you want to turn. So I'll show you. Watch how the racket slides off the back of my head. And then I go up to the ball like I'm going to use the wrong side of the racket. And then just before I get to the ball, I'm going to turn. Can you demonstrate that? So make me think. Yeah, just put the racket on your head. Good. Slide
Racket
it.
on the head.
Yes, slide
Oh.
it slowly off the back.
Oh,
And now
yeah.
there you go. So when you were going to the ball, Jeremy,
Well, I wasn't doing that.
the ball, no, you're not quite doing that, but you will. I'll make sure of it. But when you were going to the ball, if the ball could think and the ball could see, it thought that you were going to hit with the wrong side. And at the last second, you turned. And that's actually not just the feeling, that is actually our goal eventually. We will probably not get that, today or
Okay.
next week, but
Got
the goal is by July, you do
Oh.
that every time.
Okay.
And you can see by me saying 6 months from now, this can be quite an undertaking. But getting better at if getting better at tennis took a
Wow.
week, I'd be out of a job. So it does take a while to learn this. Very good. Now, when you do this, when your strings are facing down, what you're learning is to bring the racket in over the head, where it's almost like you could see yourself in the mirror, in like looking at yourself in the mirror of a racket. The racket goes past your head. You then go toward the ball with the back of your racket, and then you turn, and the turn, right? So, back in the 80s, the nurse would put the mercury thermometer under my tongue and they'd snap a thermometer like this. And so they would pronate, and we're just pronating a thermometer here. That's all we're doing is we're snapping a thermometer. We don't want a wrist snap. And so we don't want this move, which is currently what you're doing.
Okay. Okay.
We want this. When you watch high-speed film of a baseball pitcher, look at Greg Maddux from 30 years ago in slow motion, and his arm turns like this. Look at a quarterback. And that's just a natural movement of the bones in the forearm. So that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to learn how to bring the racket in over the head and then look like or feel like we're going to hit the wrong side of the racket. And at the last second, you turn it. And there's more to the story, which I don't want to get into because that's enough.
Where the
Like
snap comes from, right? The speedy snap is that last bit. That's
You-
where a lot of racket.
have you noticed when you watch tennis, whether live on TV, there's this snap at the top. The reason rec players, we all start out with our strings facing the sky. So when we snap, we have to go extension deflection. When what we really want to be is supinated and then pronate. And that's the fastest way to move the racket. You're not going to flex your wrist and get a ton of speed, but rather you're going to pronate. And now I'll teach you this.
Then you
I'll
finish.
Well, yeah, I'll teach you this. So, because I can tell you're figuring it out right now quickly. What I want you to do is when you're done, point your strings off to the right.
Down to the right. Okay, so here to here to there.
There you go. Now, of course, you're not going to stop there because you'll hurt your arm if you're slamming on the brakes. And as you mentioned, the follow through will continue off to the left, but you swing off to the right and your strings face over here. Susan is excellent at this, at getting the strings off to the right. And I've worked on Susan to make sure that she's continuous to not hurt her arm and slam on the brakes so quickly. But you can see how you're you're a quick study there, Jeremy. You're going to put me out of business. You're not going to need me.
Oh, no, I will, trust me.
All right, let's.
Balanced a bit. It doesn't feel natural at all.
No. If it were natural, you would already do it naturally, right?
We're gonna hit the TV too.
Yeah, don't do that. So I'm gonna share my screen. Just let me know when you can see yourself, and I'll put you next to some pros, and we'll put this together for the next 10 minutes, and you'll get a sense of exactly what I mean. I'm gonna make sure that I demonstrate these drills that I want you to do.
Yeah, different group of muscles, I think.
Oh, 100%. 100%. All right. Let me know that you can see. Can you see your court, your tennis club?
Oh, yeah. There
Okay,
I
you
am.
can.
Oh, my glory.
Good. All
Okay.
right. Well, let's see here. Let's go to your serve. Let's go to 48. All right, to the 48-second mark right here. All right, so you got your racket face open. This is incredible. So when your racket face is open like this, that indicates that you have a really great grip. So you got a great continental. Let's look at your toss.
That's my downward, but I see what you're saying. So
No, this is good. Oh, this is amazing. No, that's great. Yeah, I mean, you got to be somewhere before it lifts up to here with the strings down. So that's great. Let's put a timer down. I just want to prove to you that your toss is really good. We'll put the timer. This is good. We'll put the timer right at the top of your hat. It's just got to be somewhere near the head. So we put a timer down. And to give you context, the toss timing, which is from now until contact, should be somewhere between 0.6 and 0.9 seconds. That's the range of acceptability. So we run the timer until you hit the ball, and you're hitting the ball right about now. It's somewhere between these two frames right here. And it's 0.86. This is amazing. This is actually Novak Djokovic. That is his toss timing. So there you go. You've got the toss timing of Novak Djokovic. Yeah, so it's great. You got your back leg kicking up, your land, it's called the scorpion leg, but it's necessary because you're leaning forward. So when you lean forward to keep your balance, your back leg will naturally kick up. You're landing inside the baseline because that's because you're jumping forward, which is awesome. So you're doing a lot right. Excellent athleticism. So here's where we see, and there are issues I'm not mentioning, obviously. But again, I'm not going to overwhelm you here. But notice your strings are facing up. Okay. So this is what we're trying to avoid. And it really happens right here. You can just see you're lifting the racket.
Hatting it there. That's not quite a birthday hat there, I guess. Right?
Correct. You're not hitting the birthday hat, which is why I'm going to be suggesting that you wear a physical birthday hat and you put it around your head, and that you actually have to hit the birthday hat off your head. Now, when you lift the racket up, if you look here, let me put you next to, do you know the young, I think he's French, Giovanni Pecci Pericard? Have you heard of this kid? Okay, with the huge serve, right? Here he is, okay? So, by the way, who's the pro? Are you kidding me? Look at this. You got to get Susan to check this out if she has it. And just ask her who's Pecci and who's her husband. She's not going to be able to tell. That's pretty cool, right? That's what, like, when I tell you, you do a lot right. I mean it.
I'm finishing well, but
oh wait, oh, sorry.
So okay.
Here's Susan. Susan, look at this.
Yeah,
Susan. Oh, she did. Good. Okay. So here's what I want to show you. At this moment right here versus Giovanni. First off, look at his look at the curl, right? Look at the wrist flexion. But notice right here,
Oh, he goes over his head. Wow.
notice if he were to look at his racket, he's looking at his strings that are going to hit the ball. What we're looking at here are the strings that are not hitting the ball. What we're looking at for you are the strings hitting the ball. And this is apples to apples. This is ad side of the court, ad side of the court. This is exactly the same angle. And you can see his wrist is curled over. He's got the same grip you have. You both have a continental,
Yeah.
but he is so curled with his wrist.
Wow.
And yeah, you'll also notice that he has a greater angle, and he's less than 90 degrees, you're greater than 90 degrees. And so you're going to have to get your racket closer to your head in order to hit the birthday hat. Now, that's kind of the first idea, is to hit the birthday hat, but to have your strings facing your head as you do it. And the way you do that, by the way, is to be very curled in the wrist. And like he's lifting the racket up. Look how flexed he is. We call this the dinosaur, or like the goose head, like your wrist is in a goose position.
Yeah.
Now, what I want to show you next is, even though he lost in the first round, but I would love to lose in the first round of the Australian Open, is Felix Auger-Aliassime. All right.
Yeah.
So look at his racket right
Yeah, you're right.
here.
Yeah.
Doesn't it look like he's going to use the wrong side of the racket to hit the ball? Isn't that crazy? Then he turns. Now he's completely on edge. And then he keeps pronating. Now his strings, you can't really see it because the camera or his body blocks, but his strings are facing that way. Then he follows off on the left side. But his racket is leading toward the ball with the back side of the racket. When you go up to the ball, your strings are facing up. His strings are facing down. So what they are doing is twofold, Jeremy. They are using a bigger circular motion, and the definition of speed is measured by distance over time. So they go a farther distance in the same amount of time. And if you drive farther in the same amount of time, you had to go faster. And so they figure out how to make a swing that is really big. Like if you look at his racket drop, look where his racket is. It's at his butt. Look where your racket is. Your racket never gets lower than your ear. And his racket's at his butt. But that's because his elbow is bent more than yours. And that's because he's getting his racket close enough to hit a birthday hat. That's why hitting the birthday hat is critical. It's getting you to bend your elbow more, like you're saluting, and you're going to bring the racket nice and close to your head to hit the party hat. But then by doing so, they actually get into this strings down position that forces the pronation. That's not actually the best pronation that he has. There's one that's just insane. Let's see it. Yeah, like that's insane. Look at this. Look at here. Again, it looks like he's going to hit the back of the strings. But here, his strings are facing to the left. It looks like he's going to hit the edge of the racket. And then look at his racket rotate. And now his strings are facing to the right. So he's really rotating the racket. And he actually finishes with the strings facing up. It's like insane how flexible he is. But those are the two main ideas. Hitting the birthday hat with the strings down, which he doesn't do as well as Pericard. But he is just an otherworldly example of having the strings face down, like he's going to hit the wrong side of the racket, which is why I want you to learn hitting the wrong side of the racket at first. Just
So
in
I
a,
should actually practice. I saw you in your tape.
yeah,
We're hitting with the wrong side just to
Yep.
get.
yeah. If if he were to hit the wrong side of the racket right now, his entire serve is 85% correct, and he's only missing the last 15%. And all he needs to learn is the contact or the pronation. What happens is they get their strings to face up long before they ever hit the ball, and then their racket or their swing is only 15% correct. So if you hit the wrong side of the racket, you instantly become 85% correct. Then you only have to learn the pronation at the end. Yeah. So
Wow.
those are the main ideas on the serve, and I'll demonstrate in front of the camera how I want you to practice those. And I basically got you to understand that as we as we demonstrated at the beginning. So let me talk to you now about your forehand. And so on your forehand, you are, let me take a stab at something. I think watching you hit and the technique that you use, that you prefer lower forehands compared to higher forehands. So you probably like a ball at knee level more than a ball at shoulder level.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. So the reason I know that is because of the grip you're using.
Okay.
And the grip that you're using doesn't have a name because it's actually not a grip that we want to use. But
Okay.
and the reason okay, now the reason we don't want to use it is because it only allows you to hit low balls.
Okay.
With comfort and confidence. Okay. So I mean you can hit a ball up here, but you just don't like it. So let me I apologize that I'm
Taught me to hold it like that. I don't even remember his name. Was that Chris?
yeah, yeah. Let me show you the way you're holding it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. And so I'll do my best here. So there are two spots on your hand that you have to keep track of. Okay, and I'll just draw them. My kids have suggested that I get tattoos on my hand. Can you see my hand here on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good.
I'm sure.
So these two spots, the base knuckle
Okay.
or the
Yeah.
base of the finger and the
Yeah.
heel pad,
It's a heel pad. Okay.
those two spots for you right now are on two different places on the racket, even though they should be on the same place. And again, I wish I could tell you what the name of the grip is that you're using, but there is no name. So let me explain. And Susan will be able to help you because she understands grips extremely well. Okay. So when you look at the butt of I want you to become very confident in understanding grips. So you're going to look at the racket and you always want it vertically positioned so that we can get the orientation correct. The top flat panel, if you're driving down the road and you see someone sitting on a stop sign, they're sitting up on top of a stop sign, that's panel number one.
Okay.
And so a panel is a flat side, or also known as a bevel, and that's a flat side, okay? Panel two is this 45-degree angle panel.
Right.
That, by the way, that's a continental, okay? Panel three is the vertical side, the right side. So one is on top, two, three is here. And again, these panels run the entire length up the grip to the throat of the racket. And then I'm going to show you one more panel. Panel number four, it's the bottom right 45-degree angle. This panel is panel four. This is actually called a semi-Western grip. Panel three is an Eastern forehand. So semi-Western is what I use. It's what Nadal and Djokovic and Serena use. Panel three are what Federer and Dimitrov use. Del Potro uses three. So what you're doing, Jeremy, is you're placing your knuckle on 3.5.
Okay.
Which is fine. That's actually where Agassi put his knuckle. The problem is you're putting your heel pad on 2.5. So you are placing your knuckle the three is on the very flat right side. So just below that, you're placing your knuckle, but you're putting your heel pad up. And let me give you like an extreme way of understanding this. Go ahead and put your racket out in front of you like this with the butt cap pointing directly to your right. And now just grab on. Okay, so there's quite a perpendicular relationship between your arm and racket.
All right.
That is an extreme version of how you're hitting your forehand and with the grip, but it's a slightly bastardized version, but it's not far off.
Okay.
And when you have that relationship where the arm and racket are basically in a 90-degree perpendicular relationship, it means you like low balls and you hate high balls. So here's what I want you to do right now. I want you to place your racket instead of horizontally. I want you to place your racket vertically.
Okay,
And now do this for me. I want you to put your hand, your right hand, vertically up the grip. Okay, so not across, actually up the grip.
okay,
And now I want you to turn it clockwise, but ever so slightly, just enough where you can wrap your index finger around. Now, can you show me your hand and specific, a little lower? Yeah. Okay. Notice what you instantly have. Notice you have space between your index and middle finger.
yeah.
Instantly. That's called a trigger finger. The
Mhm.
trigger finger is a byproduct. It's not important on its own. It is a byproduct of having the knuckle and the heel pad on the same place, whether they're both on 3 or they're both on 3.5 or they're both on 4. When you hold the racket correctly, you naturally get space for an extra finger between your index and middle finger.
Okay.
So, and really wrap that index finger around. Like there you go. Good. Yeah. You don't want it like half sticking off. Now, all I want you to do is just please make sure nothing's around you, but just swing a forehand and tell me if that feels normal or if it feels different.
Well, it feels different already, just
Yeah,
holding it.
yeah. I knew the answer. I don't, I'm like a lawyer, Jeremy. I only ask questions I know the answers to.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally different. Yeah.
Okay. Now, can you try to hit a ball that's near shoulder level?
Hang on, oh, shoulder level? Yeah, that'd probably be a lot easier. Yeah.
Does it feel more
I
like
don't,
it,
yeah, it feels like a more natural swing to hit high.
yes. Yeah. So when it came to your forehand, you've been battling, you've been going upstream because until you ever change your grip, you were never going to be able to do anything that any coach, even myself, would suggest.
Okay.
And so you have to have the foundation right, and the grip is number one. And
Is
without the
this
grip,
the right grip? I'm on the right things where you had.
well, here's what we can do. That's a great question, right? So here's what we can do. The answer to that question is I don't know
Oh,
because there are different forehand grips and well, let me say it this way. On the backhand, there are no like, well, rarely. You're a one-hander, so there's not like multiple grips that I want you to try. But on the forehand, there's a lot of leeway that you can use. So here's
huh.
what I want you to do. Here's what I want you to do.
Uh,
I want you to loosen up your grip ever so slightly without releasing. So you'll have to hold on with the throw to your racket to the throw to your racket. Loosen your hand ever so slightly. And all I want you to do is just wrap your hand around a little bit more. So, yes,
okay.
good. Now, can you demonstrate a swing again just in front of the camera? So, like, okay, good. Okay, amazing.
Very
So,
weird.
so you turned way too far.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So I wanted you to turn a little bit less than that. Yeah. So that's my fault. So just turn a little bit like that's great. That's great. That's kind of like an extreme semi-Western grip. Okay.
It's extreme.
And yeah, so maybe
The
go a little bit,
original, the
maybe
original
go,
was semi-western where we
no,
started
no, no,
with
no,
no,
no, no, no, no.
no.
The grip that you used the
All right.
grip that you were using where you initially had like your finger up the racket, you're like, oh yeah, I think this would be better on high balls. You were using what's called a high Eastern. So you were kind of
High Eastern. Okay.
you were close to continental. So
Ah,
whenever you make grip changes, make minute changes because it's like a little dab will do you. Just a little change will make all the difference. Yeah, that's even too far still. That's even too far.
all
Go
right.
back, be a little more moderate there. There you go. That's great. That's great.
Okay.
Yes. And so now oh my gosh, does that look so much better? Oh my gosh, that looks
Well, it's a
amazing.
lot easier to hit the topspin thing.
Do
I
you
kept
feel it
on
now?
hitting I dented my
Yes.
racket, hitting the metal
Yes.
with my
Yep.
other. So, okay, so, yeah, that's easier.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Good, good. Now, here's what I want to say. The grip and turning it around, it's like crack because people get so addicted to it. They're like, oh, yeah, if a little bit of topspin is good, then a lot is great. And so they turn their hands so far over. Well, look, with every benefit comes a detriment with something that we haven't talked about. So you're better off using like moderate grips that don't go crazy.
Okay.
Wow, that looks great. That looks great. Good, 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 good. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's talk about the second idea. But you just got your money's worth on this lesson in that last 5 minutes. That was awesome because you really understand it. And instead of having this 90-degree angle between the arm and racket, now like you can kind of see, whoa, the arm and racket are almost in a straight line.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like you just turn the hand a little bit, and then you can rotate the racket as needed to get the grip to be more moderate or more extreme. And the more around you go, the more topspin you're going to get, but you get less power. And it's so you want to be more moderate, but you really understand that.
Go too
This
far, I mean, then you can't hit low balls at all either, right?
Oh my gosh, very good. Because what does it do? Now you can only hit high balls and you can't hit low balls, which is the opposite of where we were before.
Okay.
Very good, very good.
All right, great.
That was I
So
was
that
pretty.
alone is gonna be, I'll have to hit the ball machine or something to get the feel for that, because that, my forehand is gonna be very different feeling.
Yeah.
Although I
Well,
can see that makes it easier to
yeah.
get the
Mhm.
stop spin motion.
Yeah. So let me give you a piece of advice here. So what you're going to find is that you're able to more easily hit topspin. Now, topspin requires you to aim higher over the net.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So if I go bowling, like I stink at bowling. So I go with my family and my wife and my two kids, and I throw the ball down the middle of the lane and I cross my fingers. But I see people on the other side, they're curving the ball, but they're throwing it out to the edge of the gutter and then it
Yeah.
comes back in. So
Right.
they're accommodating for the spin by changing where they aim. So when you put all this top spin on the ball, you've got to aim much higher of the net. Otherwise, you're just going to start dumping every ball in the net. So I would be remiss
Okay.
to not tell you that you need to aim higher, right? And so Nadal had more spin than anybody. He also
Right.
hit the ball higher over the net than anybody. Like that's the two go together. So you
Yeah.
can't just spin it and aim low like you always do. The
Right.
ball's just going to go in. That's the whole point of topspin is it pulls the ball down.
Got it.
Good,
Okay.
good, 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 good. Now, here's
Yeah.
the next idea. And you basically have 4 ideas on the forehand, and we just went over the first one. The second one is, and the next 3 are all damage control, by the way. They're all related to the grip, so they're going to get better hopefully naturally. The second idea is when you turn for your forehand, you turn quite low. Okay. And what we want to do is turn high and use a circular swing to hit. So when you start in your ready position, the goal is to take the racket high, and you can see the racket slightly higher than my head. Then it's like fast pitch softball, where it's like a windmill. So we want to go up, and when we do this initially, it should be with both hands. So you're already doing it. This is great. You want to turn with both hands, and this is like a baseball pitcher who turns with the ball and the mitt and everything together for coiling. We're going to turn with both hands high, left hand on the throat of the racket. And then when the racket drops or begins to drop, that's when we let go with the left hand, and then the racket drops. So what we don't want to do is take it low, because then the racket has to stop, and then we have to get all that energy to begin again, and we're starting back at 0. Much like we don't want to lay the racket back on the serve, but we want to make it circular, because circles we can accelerate. We want to draw a circular swing because then the racket can accelerate. And racket speed is very important for spin, because if you're going to allocate some of your racket speed to spinning the ball, you lose some power. So you need to get a faster racket so that you don't really lose the speed of your shot. So it's called high, low, high. You turn high, you drop low below the Topspin Pro, and then you finish high again, up over the shoulder. Beautiful. That's it. Oh my gosh, that grip right there has made all the difference. Good job. Good job. Good job.
Go
Now,
high with this grip. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
the grip's looking good on you. Yep.
Naturally, yeah, I'm just worried I'm gonna forget this grip.
Do you know who you live with? Do you think she's gonna let you forget your grip?
Oh, okay, so Eastern.
No, no, no. He's semi-Western. That's a semi-Western. His knuckles not on. It's like low 3, high 4.
You want him semi-Western, okay.
Yeah,
In between.
yeah,
Okay, that's what I'm using these days,
He
yeah.
didn't want me to go too
Okay,
far.
yeah.
yeah.
But I'll
Just
I'm gonna
remember,
do it by putting my hand on the racket, like you said, and then grab, and then slightly turn.
yeah, but you could even do this. That's very good, Jeremy. But you could even do this. Instead of having your racket pointing straight away from you, turn it slightly like this. So the strings are facing slightly off to
I-
the right, and then do that, and the knuckle will naturally be on forward, right? Instead of having to grab on and then turn it. Okay.
Got it. Okay.
Now
All right.
here is the fourth idea. I'm sorry, the third idea, but the third idea is going to happen naturally.
Okay.
So the third idea is before you hit the ball, your racket is straight up and down. Well, with the old grip,
Got
your
it.
racket is like I could take a magnet and balance it on, or a coin.
Okay.
What we should see is that your strings are facing down. This is called closing the racket face. A closed racket face allows for you to swing low to high and spin the ball. Have you ever felt, Jeremy, that you've needed to roll over the ball? Have you have you
No.
ever felt like, oh, I've got to like roll it, or like have you ever heard of the idea, the concept of rolling over the ball for spin?
Yep.
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah, that is the feeling that players get when their racket is straight up and down. And then when they get to the ball, the racket naturally opens. So they have to get the racket square against the back, but the racket keeps rotating. So if you close the racket, there's no need to roll. And rolling over the ball is not something that's even possible, because the ball's not touching your strings for long enough that you can even like change the racket face as the ball's touching your strings. But we just want to close the racket face, but that's based on the grip. Very good. Very good. And then the last thing, Jeremy, and then we're going to look at the footage to kind of prove what we're doing is going to help you. I want you to catch the racket with your left hand. So, yep, you're going to catch the throat of the racket. And the drill that I want you to practice for this is on a ball machine or with hitting with someone, is I want you to, and you can do it with the Topspin Pro, is hit the ball, grab on, and then let go with your right hand and just hold the racket in your left hand. Catch, now let go. Yes. And that forces you to grab on to the racket. Like if you're going to do that drill. Yeah. And so that drill is obviously unrealistic. Why would you ever do that? But it's training you to really activate the left hand. And catching the racket isn't important, but in order to turn with both hands and then to catch, it requires your left hand to do something that allows for uncoiling. And it's something really simple that just makes sure that something good happens. Check your grip there, because that's a little too it's a little too. There you go.
Turn a little bit and then grab.
There you go. Yep. And if you feel like you're getting too much, that's a little too far. Yeah, it's too far, too far, too far. You've gone too extreme. There you go. Like, yeah. Yep, that's better. Much better.
Okay, because then it's facing me, grab.
Yep. That looks great. Ah, look at you.
Let's see, I'm taking a little while.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Very nice. Yep. All right, I'm going to share my screen so you can see this.
Right.
It's fun to do these because you can then learn. You can learn so much more in a lesson like this and then go out and practice. Okay, so let's go to your forehand. Let's see. There's actually a forehand that's very, yeah, this is pretty good. Let's go to 158. Okay, let's look at that previous one. So it's a little hard because you're on the other side of the court, so I've got to really
Yeah.
zoom in.
But I
But
see
can-
I'm low.
Yeah,
Yeah.
look, yeah, it's like low, and your racket never really gets above your head when you turn. But notice, see how your racket, can you see that your racket, I'm zooming in as much as I can. See how the racket's straight up and down right there? it looks the racket is on its edge. It looks like a knife going through butter. Like the racket's vertical, and your strings are facing directly off to the right of you, to your right.
Yeah.
And then when you hit, you can see like you kind of smother over the ball, trying to change the racket face and like roll over the ball, if you will. But this is why you really struggle to get topspin. The grip that you use with, or the grip you used with your knuckle on low 3 and your heel pad on high 3, it made you like low balls. And whenever I see that, you just know that the racket face is going to be open when they hit the ball, and they're going to have to roll over the ball. So when you turn now, you're going to have a much better grip, and your ready position should be the new grip. When you turn, the goal is that your racket is higher than your head. So let me show you myself even. Where am I? Here we go. So you'll see when I turn, I'm turning with both hands on. By the way, you can see my trigger finger, the space in between my index and middle finger, turning with both hands. The racket is obviously higher than my head. And then watch as the racket drops. The racket face is closed, and it's closed at about a 45-degree angle. Look, there you go. Pretty close, 47. And so the strings are facing down at an angle, and that's what allows you to swing up the back for topspin. You just swing low to high, and the racket face goes from facing down to then facing forward. And then when I'm done, I catch the racket in my left hand. I could easily, if I wanted to, just let go with my right hand. When you're done, you don't really have that high over the shoulder finish, but you can't, because your racket is straight up and down in the back. You're not closing the face because of the grip. So so it forces you to swing across. And then if you hit the ball too hard and too high over the net, the ball's going to always go out. And that's because you're just not spinning the ball. So it all comes down to the grip. Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, the grip unlocks the high turn, the closure of the racket face, and the follow through over the shoulder. Now there are two more things I want to mention to you, and then I do want to show Susan a couple ideas.
Yeah.
When you're done with your serve, that was a good ace. So when you're done serving,
Yeah.
you want to serve, then move backward, and then do a split step. Do you know what a split step is?
Yeah.
Good.
Jesus says it all the time.
Good. So an easy time for you to work on this split step
Yeah.
is right after a serve.
Okay.
So after you're done serving, and so we do have to add a little bit of footwork into this first lesson. After you're done serving, take a couple steps and then do a hop.
Okay.
Okay. And so you might get 4 or 5 steps in, but like you're not going anywhere. It's not like you're running forward and serving a volley. In fact, you can do it while moving backward slightly, and then do a split step. In fact, my student Yejin in this is South Korea here, who I just taught on yesterday morning. So she's working on this. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, you can see, you can
I
watch.
see.
Yeah, you can kind of see like she's
got
getting
that
better at it. So watch, she's taking like multiple steps.
success.
Yeah, and then like so she's learning how to move backward and take multiple steps, and she's not a pro yet, but yeah. Yeah, so I don't know where she lives in South Korea, but
I noticed
so
that with pros is their feet are constantly moving.
constantly, and it's not it's constantly moving, but it's 100% in control and purposeful. And so it's not sloppy always moving, it's very imprecise always moving, obviously. But an easy time to do that is after the serve. And so I'll demonstrate that. And then one last thing I wanted to show you, Jeremy. I noticed the angle of attack you take when running down balls. So let me show you this. Let's go to this. Go to this ball. No, I'm not gonna show you that. I'm gonna
That's
show you
where I
some.
go over the fence. Yeah.
Yeah, you ran into the fence a couple of times. Bob was being mean to you. Okay, so let me teach you something here. This is such a no-brainer, but it often has to be explained. So Susan's hitting a backhand here, and she hits it down the line. And you run over, and the ball bounces twice. Now, what's interesting is it bounces twice. When she hits this ball, you're inside the baseline. And you go like this. You run back behind the baseline, and then you try to come back in. So when the ball is bouncing twice, you have to be able to read where the first bounce is and where the second bounce is. At the beginning of the lesson, I asked what sports you have played, because when it comes to soccer, when it comes to baseball, when it comes to basketball, any sport that has like a ball that bounces, athletes become very good at reading the bounce. And then I don't know how much basketball, baseball, soccer you played, but you first said crew, you said cross country, you said track. So it's like, okay, he's not a ball sport player.
Right.
Or that where a ball's bouncing, right? Because what I noticed is you tend to run, Jeremy, to where you tend to run to the place where the ball is already bounced twice. So understand, like your brain right now, the ball is traveling like this. Here's the first bounce. Here's the
Yeah.
second bounce. You're running to here, but the ball's already bounced twice.
Right.
And you did it a couple times. This was 132. Let's go to 52. You did it a couple times. Here's another one. So Susan beat you on this ball. There's the first bounce. There's this, that's basically bouncing a second time,
Yeah.
all right? But you can see where you went initially. You actually drew a J. This happens all the time. People go like this, and there's a little J, I call it a J, where it like turns, and they turn at the last second. Watch how you start running to your left, but you're actually running to where the ball will have already bounced twice. You needed to move in at an angle. So
Yeah.
what you have to learn is when, and it's not easy. I wish I wish I could just have you learn it, but it takes experience and attempting it, is when the ball is hit, you have to be able to see into the future and have a general idea of where the second bounce is going to be. And then you have to run in between the first bounce and second bounce, obviously, so you can hit the ball after one bounce.
Got
You're fast enough to get all of these balls. It's that
Okay.
your initial direction you run is to the outside of the second bounce, and you got to run to the inside of the second bounce so you can get it on one bounce. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that because you're getting to these balls, and there's nothing more frustrating than seeing a ball and you're thinking to yourself, I could easily have gotten, like, why didn't I get that? It's like trying to tackle in football. Like you got to take the right angle or you're out of position. And so it's all about the angle that you take. So this is like we teach the kids the V. So like kids learn this. They learn to move in a V, especially on a cross court ball, because you have to move perpendicular to the path of the ball to cut it off. It's the shortest distance. But a lot of times people move laterally, and then when there's a cross court ball that occurs and you're moving laterally, it takes you longer to get to the ball, and oftentimes the ball's already bounced twice. So it's just something to keep track of. And now that you know it, now it's in your mind, and you got it. Okay. Susan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, great.
Ryan, I have 4 matches this week. I've had 2 already. Could you believe it?
4 matches.
Oh, no, I had one already.
wanna say?
I have 3 more to go. Could you believe? Two USTAs and
You wanna
2
say
day leagues. No, thank you. Is there just one? Because we're over time already.
Yeah. Let me give you one
Is there
idea. My
thing
fault.
that you see that I
Yep.
could.
Yep.
Like an update on stuff that you've been telling me to do.
Yeah. Well, first off,
one-
I want to give you a huge compliment on this one right here. All right. So check this out. So Jeremy's about to serve, and I want you to watch your elbows. Watch your elbows. Do you see them?
Yeah.
See them flare?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Look at your elbows flare.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And you're doing a split step. That's awesome. Jeremy. Oh, look at Bob. Look at the two of you split step at the same time in synchrony. That is great. That's awesome. So and I love that you're split stepping, even though the ball's not coming to you, just to kind of get it in your head.
Sure.
So there's a ball 154, this ball right here. Okay. So Jeremy is going to hit a high ball and it's going to push you back. So
Mhm.
watch how he hits it high and watch how this thing pushes you back.
Mhm.
Now,
I wish I could rotate.
you are good enough, Susan, because this ball is attackable. I want you moving forward and hitting this ball on the rise. Now,
Oh,
one thing we've been working on is you tend to turn too low, right?
yes.
For all the things that you do, right?
Right.
So I want you turning with your hand around shoulder level. If your hand is around shoulder level, then obviously the racket's going to be higher than your head slightly, which is what we want. In order to make this change, you're going to have to turn higher on this particular ball, right? On this particular ball, you're going to have to turn higher if you want to move forward because you should be hitting the ball right now. This
Yes.
is just at about armpit height,
Okay.
and then you get to drive it.
Right.
So think about this. What you're doing by moving backward on this ball is fine for singles because there's no net woman, right?
Yeah.
But if you're moving backward, it's going to take you longer for that ball to get past the net player. And oftentimes, if you're moving back, you know that cross court is the smart shot.
Right.
So the player in this position might see you going back and go, she's never going to hit down. It would be silly for her to attempt a down the line shot while moving backward. Why would you go for an offensive shot while moving defensively backward? So the smart shot is to hit cross court. So this player will a very smart player will say, I know exactly where she's going, and they'll pinch the net strap. Now, Bob did not make that move, but he should, and you will the next time you see your opponent moving back like that. In case you think that they're gonna, hit across court. I want you developing. So hit on the ball machine. I want you to have it high and just past the service line, and you can
Okay.
see where his ball lands. You can get a sense of where that ball, and maybe not just past, but that seems about 8 feet, maybe. So past the service line, and this is about 10 feet because this is 18 feet total. And so if you can have a ball like that and you start at the baseline, the moment the ball comes out of the ball machine, you start moving forward and you take the ball at shoulder level, but with a high turn and a high
Okay.
follow through. I want you being more aggressive because you are clearly good enough, but you have a habit of that low turn
Yeah.
that I want to keep encouraging you to turn high enough that you can go forward and drive that ball and not have to move backward and play defensive tennis. This is how you take over the net. You nail it at the net woman, like all good stuff happens. So those are two things I wanted to show you. I loved the ready position, how you stuck them out right as the point started. As you know, I'm a big fan of that. But this is an area where we can change the fortunes of the point. Instead of playing defense, I want you to learn offense. So
Right.
that's what I want you to do
Right.
and practice.
Yeah, right. More here.
It's interesting, Ryan, because Susan has such quick reflexes and she's so aggressive at the net. But what you're saying is when she's back at baseline, she's fading backwards.
Only on that ball. Only
Oh.
on that ball. She typically doesn't. It's
Okay.
yeah, it's only on that ball that
High
the
booster.
ball is going to bounce high and she tends to turn low, right?
Oh,
So Susan does 19 things correctly for every one inefficiency. I mean, I really she's an amazing student. So she turns low And what ends up happening is when a ball goes high, she has to back up to kind of let it fall to her contact point.
I
Where if she
gotta keep on remembering, just like what you were telling Jeremy, this is so important.
Yeah, you want the racket higher than your head. And it's not just for power. Like I mentioned that for a circular motion for Jeremy. But for you, it's so that you can move forward and drive the ball at shoulder level to take time away from the opponent. So it's
I'm gonna focus on that one tip tomorrow. I have
perfect.
this. Thank you,
Now,
Brian.
yeah, you got it. Jeremy, thank you so much. This was a blast. I hope you learned a lot. And
Yeah.
I want to show you, I know you want to have dinner probably, but this is what it should look like. After you're done serving, take a couple steps and then do a split step. Okay. You got it. That was amazing. Have a great night. I'll send you the recording. Thanks again.
Okay,
I'll see you both
appreciate it.
soon. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.